Welcome to Life in Full Expression with me, your host, Beth Wolfe. In this show, we will explore, elevate, expand, and learn how to live your best life. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to live your life in full expression or create an expansive vision for your future? Get ready to be energized to fully express yourself, discover your heart's clarity for dynamic direction in life decisions, and develop your unique capabilities so you are delivering your ever-increasing capacities into your world. Join me, Beth Wolfe, and unleash the limitless capabilities of your soul, experiencing amazement, collaboration, fun, and purpose. Life in Full Expression starts now. Welcome, you amazing souls, to a time that you get to explore, elevate, and expand your life in full expression. Super excited to be with you on this Monday as we look at your life in full expression. I'm going to introduce to you today how to be the best vibe you could desire. So I'm going to give you 4 simple keys. I learned about these years ago and still practice them even to today. Sometimes I put them a little bit on the back burner, but I start noticing that I'm not using them. And it shows up in my life. So I want to give you these simple keys today you can put into place right now, today, to start making changes. They're simple. And in our life in full expression dimension, it's going to apply to all of them. I put a few of them in, but really we're looking at physical, spiritual, intellectual, emotional, your occupational, your environmental, your social relationships, all the dimensions. Why would we not want to have our best vibe in all dimensions? So starting off, I've been taking us through, if you've been listening, if not, go back and listen to some of the other episodes. I've been talking about transformation. And transformation is different than change. Change, you just kind of change things around like you would change the furniture. If you think about that, you'd move it around in the room. But a transformation is really taking on a new form. And these 4 keys can do that for you starting today. So I'm going to give you 4 of them. Number 1 key to becoming your best vibe is give away what you desire. Well, what does that mean and how do you do it? I want to introduce to you that one of the ways that you can attract something into your life is to give that very thing away. So if you would love to maybe explore and elevate more love in your life, then you actually get to give love. You get to really be that love. And then you're that magnetic, attractive force. If you would love greater finances, where could you give in that arena? Kind of sounds weird though. You're like, well, I want more finances and I desire more, but you're telling me to give more? Yes, I am. And in different ways, because you could give ideas, you could give of your time. And so gratitude and generosity, they are really giving generators to experience of the having of that. So whatever it is that you say you want more of in your life, finding a way to be more of that is going to put you and I in a vibrational alignment with the very thing you want. So one of the things that I've heard from James Allen in a little small book called As a Man Thinketh, he said, we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. So really the feedback that we're getting back in our daily lives is evidence of what the vibration that we're at right now. So let's go big here, okay? If you think about the universe, it's almost beyond our comprehension to even think of the size of the universe, let alone our own solar system, or the exquisite perfection, which is basically, it is balanced and held. But you and I, as individuals, souls and energy in this human vessel, one level, it's easy to feel like maybe we might be very small and minuscule in the presence of the size of the universe. And on the other hand, it's important for us to remember that you and I have been given capacities of co-creating. I work with coaching clients every week, and when they are really living their life in full expression, It's that they're in this co-creating mode. They love, love, love to be creating. And so you and I have been given this power and this direct with our mind and our feelings, that we can direct energy that way, and to really stay humble to the actual eternal divinity that flows to us and through us, and that we really are. That it's enlivened by the capacity that you and I have the direct power consciously and co-creatively. Now, those are kind of an esoteric approach to all of this. And I'm going to get down to some real simplistic aspects of this. So you and I, we have a vision for a life in full expression. And when we become more and more crystal clear of what that life really looks like, feels like, the vibe of it, behind that comes, all right, we feel the vibe, we've got kind of a vision of it. Here's a question. What are you and I willing to trade for that? There's really no such thing in this world as far as getting something for nothing. And energy is always transforming. I've heard many scientists, physicists say that energy is really not destroyed, but it's transformed into different forms of energy. So let's start a little bit about a cedar and a fir tree. Now, what would I say to any of us that if we want to have fir and cedar trees, that first we really get to celebrate the sprouts and acknowledge the sprout of a small fir or cedar tree, and that we give thanks for that, because that is one of the first evidences of the growth of an actual mammoth fir tree and cedar tree is the sprout. And I happen to have the amazing privilege of going with my amazing partner Kelly this weekend for her birthday, and we went out to the Hood Canal and we got to hike among amazing huge fir and cedar trees. But we also saw along the trail some real small ones, and we saw all kinds of life in the forest, and celebrating all of that. So what I want to introduce to us is that way too many of us might be really wanting this, and it's not wrong to want a big fir and cedar tree, be part of this big, amazing forest, but we tend to ignore the tiny little sprouts. And so if we're going to ignore the sprout, and then we're not willing to actually nurture it. And a sprout is, again, it's the first evidence. But if it is unnurtured, it's not going to survive. And an unnurtured, like that little sprout, won't have what is required for it to become a full potentiated self. As you know, some of the trees that we saw this weekend, we couldn't even put our arms all the way around them, even if we would have stood on the sides of the tree. They were so big. Now, why am I telling you about trees and sprouts? Is we have ideas, and your ideas are like those sprouts, and they have within them a spiritual DNA to bear the fruit of the thing that it is. And just like the seed of an apple tree, it has the DNA in it to become an apple and basically bear a lot of fruit from that. But those apple trees need to be nurtured. I live here in Washington State, and some of the most amazing apples in the world are grown here. And those fields of apple trees are nurtured. And when they're really small, you see how they are supported and taken care of in so many different ways. But I want to say that without nurturing and support over time, your ideas, my ideas like that, if we don't have really, we've all got the spiritual DNA to become amazing fruit of the thing that is, but not without the energy and the time. And the time required to transform your life and my life, whether it's in one dimension or many parts of the dimension of life in full expression, whatever it is, the transformation that you want to bring about in your life, there is both the idea and then the time and the matched energy with it. So the energy is actually the nurturing that takes the idea and brings it into form through time. Now, here's a great question for all of us. Why are some growing seasons longer than others for us, right? In the realm of ideas, bringing them into form, we have to look at some of the components of the field of metaphysics about what creates longer growing seasons or more distance in essence between the idea and the form. And here's part of it. It's basically part of what is resistance that you and I are creating. When we say we want one thing, but what we are acting upon and emoting is actually something else, we create the dissonance in the field. This is one of the major works that so many of the metaphysicians at this time, Dr. Joe Dispenza is working with, where people are meditating and the heart math, where they're getting the coherence between their mind and their heart. So here's a little bit of an old-fashioned example, if you still listen to the radio, that in essence, what we say we want is probably channel, let's say FM 105, but we keep tuning in to FM 89. And even though we say we really want what is on channel 105, our tuner keeps going to 89.0. So guess what? You and I keep hearing that particular channel and the music and the news on it, which means experiencing the broadcast of what's at 89.0 because we're not on the vibrational match of 105. We're not tuned into that. And if you and I knew exactly how to be that vibrational match at 105.0, we would all do it. If we knew that, and I'm not just talking about having a superficial knowledge, like a rote knowledge. I'm talking about a deep knowing, a mystic, like an experiential mystic knowledge of that. We would be in harmony with that. And so we'd be in harmony with what we want and what we desire. But guess what? In this three-dimensional world of humanness, it takes training process and it takes discipline and consistent interest, and the commitment of that. And that's why so often I give coaching clients certain practices that really do work, but only if they work them. I can literally see the resistance falling away as clients do the work. And if they're not doing the work, then the resistance stays there, the dissonance stays there. And so one of the things that my mentor taught me was to create a to-be guide, that is BE, rather than a to-do list. It is a to-being guide because we're talking about vibration and frequency. And it really does work because what happens for you, and I do this on a regular basis, is that the clarity required for you and I to actually write it down or even record it into your phone, it actually begins to amplify the signal in our brain to the infinite energy that's all around us, as well as new neuro synapses going across, neural pathways in our brains, and it affects your world and your experience at a subatomic level. It looks like things are just maybe starting to happen. Like maybe you start practicing this and some money shows up. Relationships begin to transform. Opportunities begin to come to you. And when you write down with expectation and you refuse to be daunted by circumstances, you refuse to be deterred by difficulty, it isn't that we're ignoring the difficulty, because at the level of fact, it's there, right? And I want to say to us that we are actually more than that circumstance and that difficulty. And our emotional system can be a little bit scared. And so we get to find a way to generate an emotional space. Best ways to do that is to find a way to be grateful and to give something. You can go through your closet and give away some clothes you're not using. I'm thinking of that right now. I could go through my closet and give a few things away. People who give of their time, talent, and money they get to experience a feeling of generosity. And guess what? Generosity and gratitude are the feeling tones and that are harmonious with abundance. And generosity, giving, it's a generator to the greater experience of having. So if you want more love in your life, then find a way to be more loving. So whatever it is that you say you want or desire more of in your life, if you find a way to be more of that vibrationally, don't ever let your paradigms or your belief systems convince you that you can't be or do more of the thing you say you want and desire. That's not true, according to metaphysics and the quantum field. You are more than that condition and circumstance. Yes, it's there at the level of fact, and you are more than that. You have a circumstance or a condition, but don't let that circumstance and condition have you. Allow and make welcome that you are bigger than that circumstance. All right, so that's number one key to basically discovering how to be your best vibe, is really the giving away. And after this short break, I'm going to come back with the second key, and it has to do with how to shape ideas into an image. So stay tuned. I'll be back with the second key to be your greatest vibe. Welcome back, you guys, to Discovering 4 Simple Keys to Become Your Best Vibe. These are things that I have been practicing for years. They just help me stay in tune with a life of full expression that I love. So what's number 2 key? It's about shape your ideas into an image. And how do you do that? Well, we have an amazing mental faculty called our imagination. And it's in full tech when we're a little kid, but as life comes to us through school systems, work systems, culture, sometimes our imagination can be turned down, sometimes not. But we call that image a vision, a life in full expression in many dimensions. And the thing is that wishing and hoping is not going to bring our dream to fruition, right? And we've all been there. And the key now is teaching us and implementing to become a vibrational match to that image. That is what is required for a manifestation of what I'm aware of today. You know, I always say that phrase because, boy, tomorrow I could have a whole nother understanding and perspective about it. So this is what I'm aware of today. There are 2 things that I want to introduce to you that require to become a vibrational match to your life in full expression, the image that you have created. Number 1, we got to give it a pattern. Yeah, we've got to introduce a pattern. You are part of infinite energy, so you have to give it a pattern and for it really to coalesce around, just like what you have to give a builder a blueprint of the form of the house you want. And as I was, it's this idea is downloading into me again, so I'm definitely going to share it. Remember being at the fair as a little kid, if you've ever gone to a county fair, and it's not my favorite thing to eat, but it was always phenomenal to watch them do cotton candy. Remember the machine of that? And you'd have this upside down, you know, like little cardboard cone, and they put it into that machine, and then the cotton candy would coalesce around that little piece of cardboard. But if the cardboard wasn't there, there would be nothing for the cotton candy to be attracted to. And I just think that literally you're watching this attractive force happen with that cotton candy, you know, pink, blue, whatever color it was. So that's with us, you know, and it had, you know, they had to hold that in the machine in order for the cotton candy to continue to, you know, be added and get bigger and bigger. And I actually grew up, my parents owned a huge rental store, and we actually had a cotton candy machine that we rented. And it was always pure joy to clean that. But you got a blueprint. You got to have one. You have to build the form in order for the cement truck to pour into it. I can recall being the general contractor of the house that I built. And sure enough, you know, they come in, they build the forms, they bring in the concrete truck. We needed a pump truck as well, and literally watch the concrete being poured into that. And you and I are using this thinking substance every single day. It's just whether we are going to choose to be awakened to it. So, out of the infinite thinking substance, you create an idea. You call it a dream, you call it a vision, a goal, an intention, and you entertain that. In your imagination, you can entertain possible futures and ideas. And let's say maybe that you're generating about $50,000 a year, somewhere around in that area. It wouldn't be wise, even for your emotional system, for you to put down that you're going to generate $500,000 this year. So let's say you're on track for 50 this year, 50,000, and you're like, no, I'm going to make 500,000. Your believing system will basically say, that's too big of a jump and a stretch. If you are making 50 and you say, I'd like to make 75,000, yet you have no idea how to do that yet. Let's just put the how on hold. And you have, you're going to make a 25% jump, but make sure that your nervous system, in other words, your believer system, that you're going to ask it to make this jump, but you have to at least be able to have some kind of sensory perspective of it. Otherwise, you will have no expectation. It will just be, you're staying in the field of wishing and wanting, and that produces no change at all. So pay attention to that. So if wishing and wanting really did produce change, then wouldn't everybody get change and a transformation? Most people wish and want, they wish on stars and they bet on lotteries. They stay in what is called the field of aspiration. And they are wanting to, they are wishing to someday, are going to. They're thinking about it. Have you heard yourself? Yeah, someday I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Are you going to get around to it? I'll get around to it. That is all futuristic, and it will stay out in the future. That's why I am statements are so powerful. Feeling as if the wish is already fulfilled is one of my favorite things from Neville Goddard. So the vast majority of people that you will ever meet, that is in the land that you and I dwell in the common hours, they may not be, shakers and movers and be into the land of having and creating. So you look at people who shape and shift their lives and they move through the random wishing and hoping. And it becomes like now it's time to ground. It's like a grounding wire for electricity. I can recall when I general contracted that house and they're pounding this big, long, you know, metal thing down into the ground. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, we've got to ground this for your entire house and your electricity. And no knowledge of that. They ground what is required to move into the have. And that's what we're talking about, is what does it look like and feel like required for you and I to really ground something so that we can move into it, for you to have that life in full expression that you desire. Well, you and I get to become a vibrational match for that. And so key number 3 is we get to think in a certain way. And how do we do that? So we're thinking in a certain way. And this is what it looks like while my whole life is repatterning according to the mental template I'm holding. Now, after I finished a 25-year marriage, completed that, moved in, left the house, generating $8,000 a year, didn't really have a place to live on my own. My life was completely repatterning in that moment. And yet I was introduced to all of this and really put myself into a supportive structure with a mentor. And she began to ask me, if everything is working out and it's being repatterned, well, Beth, how would you feel? If you knew it was happening, no doubt it was happening, or something even greater of it, how would you feel? And I'm like, well, I would feel pretty happy. So if you and I knew right now that this is what it looks like, while your life in full expression is unfolding, then you and I would feel pretty relaxed. We would be happy. We would be energized. We would be creative, and we would be grateful. And so it's very important for us to actually generate those feelings, those states of feelings, that frequency, that vibration, that tone, even before the evidence is being seen. Or maybe you're just seeing a small sprout of it. And remember, as I open this podcast, that it is about nurturing those tiny little sprouts. And so, one of the key elements about thinking in a certain way is that it helps to actually amplify the field of expectation. Remember, you guys, we're energy. Our thoughts, our feelings, our energy. We're a magnet. And so, this is real energy field, you and I. It's a magnetic field. And you and I have the choice every day of what we want to amplify and be that magneticness of something that we would love to have in full expression. And this is basic science, that you and I are amplifying, magnifying our thinking and our feeling, and that you and I are creating a conscious polarity, a match, a vibrational match for the becoming of what we desire. So this is kind of how one of the ways that I phrase it with my clients. They've told me the life that they would love living, what it would, usually it lacks a lot of emotional and experiential feelings in it. So I start off with this question and I say, if you assume the feeling of this wish fulfilled, as if allowing and making it welcome in your life, and this is what it looks like while your life is rearranging itself to perfectly match the image of whatever you're imagining, how would you feel? Guess what their first answer is? I don't know. We can usually tell what we don't want, and you can usually explain how it feels that you're not having it. Guess why? Because we practice that, and it's common hour thinking, it's common hour feeling. So when I ask this question to clients and you ask it to yourself, don't be surprised if you might go, I'm not really sure, Beth. And that's the invitation, is for you to spend time with it as if, okay, what if I just close my eyes and imagine, like I shut off to the senses that I'm feeling right now, what would I feel? Well, you may not be worried. You probably wouldn't be very anxious about it or wondering. You might be actually super grateful, happy, content, excited, energized. So, what part of you right now can generate that? That's the power of your imagination, and holding it consistently. That's just another form of meditation, that you are interested, you're being consistent with the pattern, you're holding the form. Like, it wouldn't have done me any good to have the foundation people come and build forms for my house, right? And then when the concrete truck shows up and the pump truck shows up, I took down all the frame. And they would be looking at me going, well, Beth, what are we going to pour this concrete into now that you've taken the forms down? So when you and I let go of grounding the idea as if your wish is coming true, the feeling of the wish coming true, it would be like me just taking the forms and they wouldn't have anything to pour into. So you and I aren't going to do this perfect, okay? The great part about this is you're going to be on and off track. That's okay. That's part of our human experience. And because we get on and off track, it's really not that big of a deal. But here's one of the key things that one of my mentors taught me. She said, notice what you're noticing. And at the first time I ever heard that, I was like, what? Notice what I'm noticing. I'm like, it took a bit for it to sink in. Notice what you are noticing your thinking and feeling is. Is your thinking and feeling in alignment with that life in full expression? Or is it in alignment with the current evidence that you see now. And if it is in alignment with that current evidence, then you're not a vibrational match for your life in full expression. Now, knowing that, I was just driving back today from the Hood Canal, and just like I'm driving on the road and I have a destination and I might drift a little bit, just the car that we're in, it actually flashes when I get over to the edge, and I know to bring myself back in, to keep myself honed in to the destination. As we're going to drift back and forth, you guys. It's not that big of a deal. It just really isn't. It's the same thing with like a tuning fork. We are consistently tuning ourselves both with the picture and feeling. And I want to introduce to you that what if it could be fun sometimes? What if it could just be fun? If you think about driving and, you get off a little bit, you're still having fun. It's really comes down to, are we making it a big deal? So I want to come back with the fourth key coming up here to bring this in for a landing. And it's about acting in a certain way. That's the fourth key, the fourth simplicity of becoming your best vibe. And I want us to take a short break here, and we're going to come back and bring this in for a landing on how to discover and develop acting in a certain way. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back, you guys. My name is Beth, the host of Life in Full Expression. Today we're talking about 4 keys to becoming your best vibe. And this is a daily fun thing that we get to do. Yeah, we don't have to, we get to. And I want to bring us in for a landing on acting in a certain way. We've talked about thinking in a certain way, acting in a certain way. I've really experienced and experimented a lot with this in my life. And so acting in a certain way. One of my other mentors, Neville Goddard, he talks about being the writer, the producer, the director, and actor of your life. You're all 4 of them. So this is just to kind of give you a frame set. Put yourself in theater. I had an amazing theater class that I got to take in college. I'm not a great actor, not going to say I am, but it was such a great experience to see the production that went on for a play to actually take place. And you guys, we are all of that in creating the theater of our own life. So asking in a certain way and acting in a certain way, this is where it starts producing magic for you and I. When you and I really have expectations, the evidence of the expectation is in how we are acting, right? If we know it's going to show up, then we're going to be acting as if it's a sure deal. And I want to also introduce that, again, keep your vision and your dreams with an open hand, that you're not going to hold on to it, that it has to show up this particular way. So if you felt as if this were true and you put on the person who is having the experience, okay, of your life in full expression, your dream, your goal, if you felt really for fact that it's happening and that you're holding that image, the concrete forms, they're there. And this is what life looks like while it's rearranging. See, there's that time and space repetition. There's a rearranging to it. An image comes into my mind right now as you look at a Rubik's Cube, that when they end up taking from, there's all different colors on all different sides, that there is a really simplistic process that as you keep rearranging that Rubik Cube, then pretty soon you end up with the same color, white on one side, red, yellow, blue, all on one side. You don't give up. You know that as you're rearranging that cube, that it's going to express the color, all, one color all on one side. You don't give up on it. So that's just one little, image of that. And I was also taught that in saying that I'm happy and grateful that I'm in the process. I'm in the process. I do believe that that's probably one of the fun parts of being a human being, as I've been here for several decades on this earth, is what if we would just allow the process to be fun, that we're happy and grateful for it happening. And as we look at transformation, metamorphosis, that the caterpillar is right now on its way is the butterfly nest. And there's a process that you and I get to go through. And I love this. It's already predicted. It's just a process that I'm going through. If we make it such a big deal, we're going to get hung up in it being a big deal rather than going, this is what it looks like while it's all unfolding. So then we're going to be acting in a certain way. So here's a little bit of a metaphor that you start acting like a butterfly, even while you and I might still be moving in our caterpillarness. We just put it on and we use our incredible mental faculty of imagination. So if you and I believed, here's an example, that I was a person who was completely financially free and able to travel next October, I'm going to Italy, okay? And it was already on my calendar. Whatever my image is, it's a done deal. I am going to Italy this October, and I'm going to have fun learning Italian between now and then. So here's a little example. My mind would start putting things together, maybe deciding where it is that I'd like to try. One of my favorite salad dressings is balsamic vinegar, and maybe I could try some amazing balsamic vinegar in Italy. I might start reading about Michelangelo and maybe read his autobiography. With one of my clients, she wanted to be more creative. So we actually did a book on Michelangelo. And I would start to be interested in things of Italian. And part of it would be my great grandparents are actually from Italy, from the middle part of Italy. And I would be looking up as to maybe I could find the place where they lived when they were there. And I would set a date that's going to happen. So, never mind that right now I have no idea maybe where the money is going to come from to go to Italy. And I know that this is what it looks like, where all things are starting to be arranged for me to go to Italy. As an amazing and fun speaker, one way that I could actually write this in my vision is that I'm going to Italy and I'm going to be speaking to a group of people, and I'll be paid to go there. I'll be paid to fly there. And I basically start arranging my life to be the person who goes to Italy. So what would I be interested in? Well, I certainly would be interested in learning the language. One of the things that I would probably start doing right away would start be learning Italian. Maybe three or four words a day, maybe a couple phrases, every week that I'd be able to speak in Italian. And I would begin to look at where would be some of the places that I would like to go in Italy. And whatever it is, I would begin to resonate with that and vibrate that. And I would begin to act in a certain way. And there are literal and very real things that I can do right now in my world as if I am going to Italy. And you begin to think about that. It's just like, yeah, there is things that I could do right now as if I was going to Italy. So here's another example, as if you were acting in a certain way. Say that you would love to be a person that is in love and would love their life. And even in the absence of that being present right now, I wouldn't be a person that would be moping around, right? Because I would be acting in a certain way, that I would be a person that's vivacious and energetic and that I love life. And because I would be saying, hey, I want the love of my life, but they're not here. So I'm moping until I get here. They could be right where you are, but they are not going to pick you up because I'd be in a moping vibration. And this is something that I went through real recently, as started dating last summer, and every person that I went out with, I would basically put and journal about what I really appreciated about that person, what I was really grateful, because being with someone, I would be having that feeling of gratitude and appreciation. And so acting as if I am already in a loving relationship. Again, this was the science of acting as if I already have that relationship in my life. And it's a mental science, and it's also a physical science. So guess what? I really became a magnet for the love of my life. And, we actually ended up meeting in person last August, and I became that magnet and that chalice to let that kind of energy come through me. So it's really about you and I becoming a vibrational match for the transformation that we would love to express and to create. And it begins to feel like it's magic, like it's just showing up out of the blue and you're surprised. And people will come to me and go, oh my gosh, guess what happened, Beth? And really, it's because you've been practicing thinking a certain way and acting a certain way. And so you have become this incredible magnet. And so there are things that are natural to that state. So let's say if all of a sudden your television shows that it's struggling with CNN, okay? And all of a sudden there's this flash of something wonderful that the tuner does change if you lean on it, okay? We're talking about the remote. Have you ever been watching a program and you had the remote control by you and you leaned on it? Boom, a new program. What happened to the old program? A new program is here. You changed the frequency just like that. But it starts with you and I knowing where we want to end up so that the energies can move and coalesce around the pattern. You have to take the idea and move it from the wish and want state. The wish and want state is not a strong enough vibration to attract. You have to move it to the expect, the field of expectation. You have to trick your mind a bit to do that because your rational mind will argue for the current conditions. You currently have the level of reasoning, and it's going to be attached to your current circumstances, conditions, and situations. So your paradigm, your belief structure that are thinking forms that have created the structures of your life, each one of us is living right now, will argue that mentally. It's like, well, wait a minute, go ahead and say you have, the ease to go to Italy if you want to, but I'm telling you that I'll tell you, oh, I only have $60 in my checking account right now. Just, saying that. And you are not going to Italy on $60. See how the level of reasoning, my reasoning mind is like, it's not going to happen because you only have $60. You have to have the soul strength to speak back to those kind of thoughts and not let them dominate you. I say, it doesn't matter that I don't know how right now. It matters that I know what and I know why. And if you know what you want to create and you know why, I want the freedom. I want to discover that I'm a co-creator. I want to learn about it. I would love to go to Italy and experience that. Your why is strong enough, and you stay true to that. Stay true to the what, holding the image of how you start to show up like a little sprout. And you could get in, basically learn more of Italian on the internet. And most people might scoff at that, but if you knew, you kept the feeling and the thinking as if you're going to Italy in October, and that I was, going to Italy and I was going to be speaking. Yes, I am learning a little bit of Italian each day. That's what it looks like to nurture a sprout, an idea. I may not have any idea about the growing season, but there is a law of gestation, you guys, about how little sprouts become these mighty, again, back to the weekend, of these mighty fir and cedar trees that we were walking in this weekend. And my encouragement to you this week is to pay attention. Make sure you have a clear and coherent vision, and then practice using your mind and your feelings. Like, if I knew that this was what it would look like if my life was rearranging itself I'm becoming what I would really love to fully express, to live and have. How would I feel? So start generating that feeling tone. Practice that even several minutes a day, generating that, and then practice acting in a certain way. I do this a lot with my clients, that we will act as if their vision already exists. We will have the conversation as if it already exists, and we will think and feel in that certain way. We will be in gratitude as if it already exists. And I can say that one of my clients that really desired to have an Airbnb on the water, we talked about that space-time repetition for a couple of years, and this year he has an Airbnb on the water. So if you and I believe that you were a person that was this, your life in full expression, whatever it might be, what would you be thinking about? When would you get up in the morning? What would you be doing? Who would you be talking to? What would you be wearing? All of those things. It's really an invitation for you to put on a whole different energy from the inside out. It's that energy that attracts. You are basically creating a conscious polarity with the law of polarity, and that's how it works. You are a co-creator. And so I invite you this week, put on these 4 simple keys to become your best vibration. And I want to say, keep asking these powerful questions. They will bring powerful answers. Think and feel from the life that you really love, that you are expressing. And let me know how that goes. I love to get feedback. I love to get comments. And we'll be following up with more transformation next week. So have a great week, everybody. This is Beth Wolfe with Life in Full Expression, and I'll see you next Monday. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to Life in Full Expression with me, Beth Wolfe. Tune in each Monday at noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Be your most elevated self and pursue a path of fulfillment, clarity, expansion, fun, and living your best life. If you would like to discover the 7 dimensions of your life blueprint of expression, to fully express yourself, reveal your heart's clarity for dynamic direction, and activate your unique capability, visit BethWolfe.com. That's Beth, WOLFE.com.